Hey everybody, we are on a part of the Bentonville battlefield where I bet you haven't been before, except maybe just a select few of you, and we'll talk about that in a minute. What Chris and I really wanted to do was just thank you so much for joining us on this journey through North Carolina and around Petersburg, funded by the donors and generous members of the American Battlefield Trust. Chris, what have we done?
I've spent 5 days in the car with Gary Edelman is what I have done. And if you think that he is a ball of energy out on the battlefield, you should see him in a confined space. Now, we have been all over the place. We've been to Durham, we've been to Guilford, we've been out to Wilmington, we've visited places like Guilford Courthouse and National Military Park. We've been behind the scenes at some awesome museums like the Greensboro History Museum. We've been out to Wilmington, Fort Fisher. We've been in another war with the regulators. We've done a little bit of everything, and now we're on the Bentonville battlefield.
And this is so cool, and there's been some real highlights here. I've been to some of these places, but a lot of it was new to me. And Alamance and Fort Anderson and the CSS News really stood out for me, as some of the new places I hadn't been that I was really enjoying. So thank you so much. We hope you've enjoyed the ride. If you're seeing this video, please know that there are 35, 45 videos out there for you to watch that are on Facebook and on YouTube. So Chris, we're standing at some Earthworks. People have seen this before. What's going on with Earthworks?
So just a very quick primer for most people. Whenever you come out to a Civil War battlefield today, you're going to see that much of it is going to be surrounded by woods. The woods themselves would have played a very integral part in the building or the creation of field fortifications. Now, we have a few different types of fortifications during the Civil War. These would have been out in the open fields. These fortifications, these would have been built within just a few hours or a few days by the average or common soldier. Now, these are thrown up usually at a tactical advantage point, or if you're being pushed back, you're going to try to set up on a hill or the military crest of a hill, which is about a third of the way down a hill, so that you have a place to fall back to, the top of the hill, and you're not silhouetted at the top of the hill. So the military crest is a real thing about a third of the way down the front side of a hill. Now, a fortification is pretty simple, you would think. But the engineers, who are the smart guys who came up with the idea, what they're going to tell you to do is build a trench. What you're going to do with that trench is you're not going to get in that trench. You're actually going to put a big earthen wall up. You're going to have a little hump to hide behind, and then you'll have this deep trench for your enemy to charge through. Well, as the Civil War goes on, the soldiers who are going to be out in the field being shot at are going to realize that is not the greatest idea. Why don't we get in the deeper part of the trench, use the larger amount of earth to protect us, and that is how we're going to start to create field fortifications. The Union 9th Army Corps will still use this reverse work of where you have this little hump to hide behind, and it's only going to protect your shins or your knees. But the rest of the Army start to decide over the time of the war, I'm going to get down in this trench, and I'm going to have this nice mound of earth protect me. How are these created? It's pretty simple. An engineer will come out here usually and lay out your line. They're going to try to go along geographic features. You're going to try to utilize hills, ridges, and you're going to try to anchor your flanks on bodies of water or high hills. Then the soldiers will set up their line and start to dig. They're going to throw the earth towards the enemy because that is where the fire is allegedly going to come from, or supposedly come from. You'll start digging up. Well, another set of soldiers goes through the woods, and they're not always around woods, but they will go through the woods, chop down trees. Those trees are going to be brought up to here, and they'll be built up as revetments. That's what's going to hold up your earthworks. Now, today, most people say, why are these just low mounds? Well, the reason being, those logs were not usually weatherproofed because they're only going to be out here for a few days. So over time, Mother Nature will reclaim the land, and those earthworks will collapse in on themselves. There's a guidebook written in the 1870s about the battlefield at Gettysburg, and they talk about the Culp's Hill trenches, which were very impressive, already collapsing in upon themselves. So now we have this wall of earth as well as trees. Now out in front, depending on how much time you can have a few other items. Number one, you can have pointed sticks known as abattis coming out. You can also fell the trees in front of you with their branches pointed towards the enemy, and those are known as slashings, simply just trying to put any impedimenta in front of this line. This will also clear your fields of fire because you don't want all the trees out in front. And keep in mind, this is a much more open forest, a managed forest in 1865. Now, they can also put out in front what we would consider as foxholes. Skirmishers can be out there in their small foxholes. And then along this line, we're not going to make this perfectly straight. We're going to follow the contours of the land. or we might reverse it to the right by 90 degrees on an angle. We might put in little galleries known as traverses. So if the enemy gets in on the line, there'll be a wall of earth here that we can fall back to, refuse our line Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain style, and establish a new line. We also can put artillery emplacements here. We might have command bunkers behind us. So these are going to be very intricate works. The Confederates are going to be so good at building these works that one Union soldier in 1864 said that if you give the Confederates 3 days to build a line, they can make them impenetrable. But they said that the Confederates got so good at it that they could do that within 24 hours, making their lines so impenetrable that it's going to be very difficult to try to get them out of these works. Works are controversial because some commanders think that they will make men unfit for open fields fighting. But as the war goes on, most commanders realize that this is a necessary evil out on the battlefield. Technology is trumping the tactics of the time, so the earthworks will be very crucial. And these earthworks out here on the Bentonville battlefield actually have something pretty special that Gary Edelman's going to show you.
Yeah, I can't tell you enough how forward I look to showing you this here. But before we do, we're going to make you wait a little bit longer. We're talking about these works here. So we've got Colby and Derek here from the Bentonville State Historic Site manager and operations manager, respectively. Who wants to tell us whose works are these? Who built them and when?
So these works are from Cheatham's Corps, which is commanded by General William Bate here. These works were dug essentially over 3 days. This is the on the first day. This is the right of the Army of Tennessee, and of course, when I say the Army of Tennessee here at Bentonville, I mean the 4,500 remnants of the Army of Tennessee, the guys who came back after Franklin and Nashville. This is the right of the Army of Tennessee, and these guys dug these trenches. Essentially, they started on the first day. As you guys said, the Confederate command staff was very reluctant to order the men to dig in initially because they are going to be thrown into the offensive here on March 19th. So the trenches that you see here today were actually reinforced over 3 days because the Confederates are eventually going to go over on the defensive, and this becomes the extreme Confederate right flank here on March 20th, and then it is a portion of the Confederate right on March 21st.
Cool. And this site here, I've only been here once before, and most people haven't come because it was completely inaccessible. But now it seems like it's sort of set up as a little mini park. Colby?
Yeah, so how do you get back here? How do you walk along these trenches? How do you see this line of works here, which, by the way, continues for about half a mile here? So the best way to get here, the only way to get here, is through our walking trail system. So thanks to the American Battlefield Trust, this property has been preserved. The property that's in front of us, the property that's behind you, the property that's behind me, and to my right, all of this has been preserved by the Trust, with help of the Trust. And more importantly, now you can get back in here. So when you visit the battlefield, we actually have access to these trenches. You can come back here, you can see this log. You can actually see where the Army of Tennessee started their assault on March 19th and where they come back to and stay for March 20 and 21st.
That's great. Thanks, Colby, and thanks to you all, because I mean, here at some of these places, so many places you've been, you get to see the result, of your faith in the battlefield preservation movement. I don't think the Trust saved this particular piece of land, but all the ones around it, allowing people to come here, plus another 1,700 acres for a total of 1,867 acres and counting here at Bentonville. Now, Chris, do you think we should show them what we want to show them, or should we string them along a little longer?
I know you love stringing them along, but you also love shorter videos, so I'm torn.
I am too. Let's do it. Okay, so Chris is going to show you something in here. This is just unbelievable that this is unique to me, and it's unique to all four of us here filming this video. We're in this trench here, not on it, and what we're looking at here is the only known, other than a few hundred yards down again, the only known to us remnant of an actual revetment in an earthwork. In other words, the men of the Army of Tennessee put this log into this earthwork, back in March of 1865. It goes pretty far down to the right as well. I'm gonna not follow because Chris is moving down there. I don't wanna crunch too many leaves, but it is absolutely unbelievable. This is so rare, the battlefield has put up cameras around here because they don't want anybody disturbing this, again, unique set of earthworks, the only ones we know of with revetments in them. Now, just unbelievable. Now, some of you might be watching and thinking, no way. Maybe somebody came in later and, Chris is getting attacked by bugs and leaves over there. Maybe somebody came in later and put that log there. Maybe the log just fell there. Maybe the CCC came in here. Maybe it's some sort of a later rail that just ended up there. We were talking about this on the way out. Let's go back over, if we can, to Colby and Derek. Guys, why should we believe that this is real? What are some of the reasons?
I think the first reason to think about is families here at Bentonville. So for generations, the families have passed down knowledge saying that that is the original log, that there are logs in the trenches here at Bentonville. These woods have been logged numerous times. The only way these trenches have been preserved along with that log is the families who own the property before the state comes in knew that the logs were there and they preserved the logs. So that's the first reason, is that the former landowners for generations have known that these exist.
Good. And then, some other people question, well, I'm sorry, wood can't last that long in soil like that. I would wonder, we were at the CSS News, and it seemed like it can last in muddy water for a long time. So, Derek, what are some of the things I heard you saying earlier? Wood can last that long, right?
Wood can definitely last that long. Bentonville was a huge naval storage industry trade, and so some of these would have been tapped out pine trees already, which becomes lighter, and that stuff is preserved. It's not quite a petrified forest, but it's definitely something that could last 150 years plus.
Okay, good. And I don't know if we're going to convince you or not, but I'm convinced. Chris, you convinced? These guys are convinced over there, and the people who have looked at this and the family are. What do you think? Put it in the comments or something like that. We've had lively debates about this over the years, but finally you can actually access the site. You may have seen interpretive signage and stuff over their shoulders as we pan in this direction. So we'll take one more look at this incredible resource with, again, a thank you. A thank you to you and to all of the guests that we've had on these dozens of videos over these days who have really just come out of their own, and joined us out on the battlefield. So thanks to them, thanks to you, thanks to Chris for doing all the yeoman's work, and to the other members of the Trust staff who are going to have to edit all these videos on top of us later. Thanks for watching. Let's see him again, Chris.